Hello, my most amazing artists. Today we are going to be doing a pumpkin drawing and painting. Looks like this. My pumpkin's white here because I have not finished painting the pumpkin. I've just drawn it and I've painted the background. The key is we are going to be using primary colors, which are blue, yellow, and red to create a pumpkin painting. Pumpkin will be orange, of course. That's a secondary color. Purple and green are also secondary colors. So we don't have purple and green paint or orange paint. We're going to have to make those colors. Okay, just doing a little bit of cleaning up there. And let me show you how we're going to get started. You're going to take your paper. Okay, so we want the pumpkin to be the main thing in our picture. So we're going to start by drawing the pumpkin first. We want to draw it pretty big. So an easy way to draw a pumpkin is just draw a 0. And then a forward C and a backward C, and your C should start at the top and go all the way to the bottom. And then a forward C and a backward C. You could do the stem, and then you can also bring in some lines this way. It'll make it look more three-dimensional if you want to, but you don't have to do those lines. All right, we're also going to draw a line that goes through the middle of the pumpkin. You don't want to actually make it go through your pumpkin, but pretty much the middle of your paper to your pumpkin and then over to the other side. And then we also want to do a shadow. So you can make your shadow just kind of like a curved line that goes from one side to the other. Okay, so I'm just going to take my paintbrush and we want to paint purple in the top, green in the bottom, and then our pumpkin will be orange. Or if you want to switch that around and do green in the top, purple in the bottom, that's up to you. But let's see, I guess I'll do green in the top because I did green in the bottom on my other one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by just painting blue. And once I get most of the blue off of my brush and see it starts to get scratchy, I'm going to get a little bit of yellow. I don't need to rinse my brush out because I'm going to mix these on my paper anyway. And you'll notice this is starting to turn green. So I will paint all the way around my pumpkin pretty neatly. So be sure, I don't have the best brush for this. I'll give y'all a little bit smaller of a brush because you need to outline your pumpkin pretty neatly. And you're going to paint all the way around it. We're going to paint in the pumpkin last because we want it to stand out. If you mess up in the background, it's okay because you're going to paint over whatever mess ups you make when you paint your pumpkin. So I'm painting green there, okay? Now, we're just going to pretend I've finished painting just for time's sake. So I'm going to rinse out my brush. And you don't want your brush really wet. But I'm going to rinse it out really good because now I'm going to paint purple. So I'm going to dry my brush off on my paper towel because you don't want it to be wet. And so for my purple, I'm going to use red and blue. And I want my shadow to be darker, so we're going to figure out how to make my shadow darker in just a minute. So I'm just going to start with red, same thing that we did earlier, and I'm going to get some blue, and I don't want this to be the darkest part, so it looks like the blue makes it a lot darker than the red. So I'm just going to paint around, again, paint around my pumpkin. Your goal is to finish this today. So let's see, the video's been going for 4 minutes, and I've drawn my picture, and I've already got a quarter of it painted, so you ought to be able to get finished today. So I'm just painting it in, making it purple. And when I get over here to the shadow, I think I'm going to start with blue because I think blue is going to make a darker color. So I want my shadow darker because it's a shadow. I want it to be purple because it would be the same color as whatever it's sitting on, but it should just be darker. So if you've noticed, I've gotten a little bit of blue into my pumpkin. I want to be careful not to do too much. Okay, so now I'm just going to get a little bit of red because I want my shadow to be darker. So I'm just dipping my brush in just a tiny bit. When you paint, you really don't need a ton of paint. So keep that in mind as you paint. You don't need a ton of it. If you notice, I'm just getting like a tiny bit on there. There's hardly any red on there. Now when I go to paint this part here, I'll put more of that color on my brush because I need to spread it over a bigger area. So I'm going to paint around my shadow and kind of blend those two together. So I'm painting right along the edge and blending those two together. And then I'll get my blue. And again, it does not have to be perfect. So I'm going to get a little bit of blue to blend in with this red. So, and just keep painting. So I'm going to rinse my brush out really good because I'm about to try to make orange and I don't want there to be purple on my brush. So to make orange, we need red and yellow, and those are the only two colors that we need. But I'm going to start with red, and I'm going to use this real small brush, and I'm going to outline my shapes. So almost like I'm drawing the outline in pencil again, I'm going to outline my shapes with this red, and I'm just going to paint a little bit of red in there. And then I'm going to get my yellow and paint it in there, but I'm going to try to kind of leave a little bit of that red on the outline because that's going to add value, which is going to make my pumpkin look more three-dimensional. There we go. And then I'm going to, again, take my red and outline where I drew with pencil. And this paint dries pretty quickly. Okay, I'm going to add my yellow. And I'm painting this in section by section. I'm not painting across the whole thing. I'm trying to paint in my little sections that I drew. And that's going to make this look more realistic. Okay, I'm going to get red and outline my shape. It doesn't have to be perfect. You see that outline got a little bit wide and fat. That's fine. Get my yellow and paint it in. You notice it like almost immediately turns orange. I also have not washed this brush out at all. I'm just getting a little bit of paint. Now, if you get a ton of paint on your brush, you'll need to wash your brush out. But I'm getting a little bit at a time. I just don't have to rinse my brush out a whole lot because I'm just getting a little bit of paint at a time. So I'm painting in this section. And get some red. Now my brush is starting to get a lot of paint on it because I've been painting a lot. So I'm going to see if I can just, I'm not going to get any more yellow because I need to use some of this paint off of my brush. And get a little bit more red to get these sections back here. And paint that in. And then in order to make brown for your stem, since we already have orange on our brush, orange and blue will make brown. So I'm just going to paint the rest of this on the stem. It'll look orange. And then I'm going to get a little bit of blue. And this should turn to a brownish color. It's still looking a little bit blue, kind of greenish. So I can also add a little bit of red. Just a little bit, and we should get a brown. Might not be a perfect brown, but just remember we're using primary colors to create our secondary colors. Oh, it turned out to be a pretty good brown. So when you get to the pumpkin, you want to paint very carefully. Just anywhere. And then, of course, I would have painted the pumpkin last, but I'm just trying to save some time. So there you go. So you should have green in the background, purple and green in the background, orange in the pumpkin. Again, here's one that's completely painted. I just would need to paint the pumpkin. So you do this how you like, but we are using primary colors to make the secondary colors, and let's try to get this done today.